Hey everybody, it is Mrs. Van Dyke here, your favorite YouTuber. Ha. At this point, you have already watched all the videos on adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing integers, and now we need to figure out how to use this all together. And in case you have forgotten, in math we have a special order we follow and we have multiple steps in one operation, in one expression. So I want you to just remember for now that if we scroll down, let's do this part first. If we scroll down, you'll see that there's this really great image. And don't forget, these are doodle notes. Oh, and by the way, if you don't have these doodle notes in front of you, please pause the video, go get the doodle notes. There's no point in doing this video unless you're actually doing this with me because it's great review. Pause it if you need to. In the meantime, I'm going to pick a color and I'm going to do some writing. And if you recall, our order of operations always starts with P. And in this case, I'm hoping you remember that P means parentheses. So feel free to doodle in here if you would like. I am not artistic, especially with this tool. The next one is exponents. I'm going to put an X up here so you don't forget what that means. This is the tricky part, and this is the part I want you to take a note about. Yes, it's multiplication and division, but it's not necessarily always multiplication first. It's whatever comes first, left to right. Sometimes the division sign will be first if it's on the left. So keep that in mind as we go today. And then the same rule applies for addition and subtraction. We move left to right if that is all we have left in the expression. And I want you to also remember a few things. Remember that we are talking today about integers, and you've learned the rules. Now, sometimes you get confused and you forget the rules. Please, please, please draw a number line. That's the only way we'll remember this. You don't have to memorize the rules, but you do need to know how to use the number line because you can draw one of those everywhere. So let's remember those rules for adding and subtracting in case you've forgotten them. Oh, let me pick a different color. If the signs are the same, that means you're going to add. Even if they're both negative, that means you're going to add them together. If the signs are different, I'm running out of space already. That means we have to subtract. Doesn't matter how different they are. Two signs are different, you subtract them. Okay? Now, also, if you will, remember that we also have rules for multiplying and dividing. And what's funny is that the rules are very similar to adding and subtracting. For example, if I'm multiplying and both of the signs are the same, do you recall? I am going to get a positive answer. Even if they're both negative, the negative cancels it out. If you multiply by the opposite, you get the opposite. So if I'm multiplying a negative by a positive, I'm going to get a negative. If I start with a positive, oh, sorry about that, and multiply by the negative, I'm still multiplying by the opposite, and that gives me a negative. Those are really important rules. So if you didn't get a chance to write them down now. And if you forget that rule or those rules, just always draw yourself a number line that works every single time. If you need to draw a vertical number line, it's fine. It doesn't matter. That's what helps us. Okay, I'm going to go back up to this top. Now, I am going to pause the video several times to make sure that you are thinking with me and I'm not doing all of the work by myself. So I want you to look at this very first problem. Now, remember PEMDAS. And I want you to remember what we need to do first. So take a minute, pause the video, and decide what our first step is going to be. And I know you've paused the video, and I know that you know that the first step is in parentheses. And I'm going to keep the parentheses right now. But I do know that 4 times -1 is -4. And I know this because I had a +4 and I multiplied it by its opposite. Now I'm going to rewrite the whole expression as it is, keeping in mind my tools are not as good as a normal pencil because I'm home. Okay. Now, the next thing I always ask is, are there any exponents? And I do not see any. Then PEMDAS, P-E, we already did P-E, M-D, multiplication and division, remembering that we go left to right. So the first thing I see is -12 divided by 3. That's what I'm going to do first. A negative divided by a positive. Remember, if you're multiplying or dividing by the opposite, you get a negative. So I'm going to get a -4. Now I'm adding to that another -4. And don't forget what we said. And by the way, I need to say this too. The parentheses are usually there to separate the two signs. It does not mean absolute value. It just is showing a differentiation between the plus and the minus. So I can rewrite it like this. I also hope you can recognize that it does mean the same thing. Oops, that's a 4. As subtraction. If I'm adding a negative, I'm still moving on the left of the number line. So I'm going to make this subtraction just to make this easier. Maybe you can help me out here. I have -4. I subtract 4 more. -4. Picture it on the number line, and I'm going to draw it really quickly. Your number lines do not have to be perfect. They just need to help us gauge where we are. So here's my 0. My -4 is over here. Now, if I'm moving to -4, I'm already at -4 and I take 4 more away, that means I'm going down, I'm going to the left. And if I move 4 to the left, I should end up at -8. Okay, now we're going to go to the next one, to the right. I don't see any parentheses. I don't see any exponents. I do see some division. This is a tricky one. So the tricky part is that this whole area seems like I want to take care of that first. Oh, I failed to mention that there are parentheses here, aren't there? Wonder what I should do about that. Let's go ahead and divide first. That's what we need to do. So -3 divided by 3 is going to give me what? -1, yes. Anything divided by itself is 1. And this is 3 minus -1. Let me make that a little bit better. What is wrong with me? And then I add 6. Okay, don't forget. I don't know why I'm writing so poorly. If I have 3 minus negative, yes, this is a 1. If I have 3 minus -1, I really end up having 3. Do you know what I have? Okay, that's another one. This means the opposite of what I had. So the opposite of a negative is a positive because they're right next to each other. That's why. So I have 3 plus 1, and I'm adding to that. Hopefully this 6 will turn out a little bit nicer. Oh yeah, that's pretty. Okay, so now I'm going left to right. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 6 is slanted 10. Excellent. I'm going to slide this down. Oh, sorry, I hope you got all that. If not, you know to rewind the video. Okay, still want to try a couple more problems with you. This is taking longer than I thought it would, so I will try to move quickly. In this problem here, we should see parentheses because that's our first step. So if I evaluate what is in parentheses, I should get 2 minus 3. I start above the 0 and I'm going down past the 0 to -1. Oh gosh, that's a parenthesis. I'm not really sure what's going on with me today. Must have been a long day with my 7th grade. -10 times -1 is positive 10 because a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, moving over here. I don't see any parentheses, but I do see an exponent. 3 to the 2nd power. Oh gosh, take a minute. Please, please, please tell me that this is 9. 3 to the second power means 3 times 3. Okay, and I'm going to just rewrite. I always do this step by step. The reason I do it step by step isn't because I want more work, because I'm always looking for less work. But the reason I do it step by step is that I can see very clearly what I did in every single step in case I make an error. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the 9, but this time I see division. That's what that slash means. And I know negative 25 divided by 5 gives me a negative 5. Now I am going to put it in parentheses just so you can differentiate between the plus and the minus. And if I have 9 and I add to that a negative 5, I should end up with 4. A couple more to do. Okay, this next one. Woohoo! I think I'll do it green or another color now. Yeah, let's do a green. In this problem, oh gosh, okay, I see parentheses, but there's nothing to evaluate in them, but I do see multiplication, so let's take care of that first. So negative 8 times 1 is negative 8. There's not much to do here yet, so I'm going to just rewrite it. And then times 2. Okay, very good. Now, this is multiplication, so that's what I should evaluate before I add or subtract. So let me copy this down because I'm not doing anything with it quite yet. But this time I have a negative 4 times 2. Remember, when we multiply by its opposite, we will get a negative. So in parentheses, just to differentiate the two, I have negative 4 times 2, which is negative 8. All right, excellent. Oh, now do you remember what we talked about? When there's two signs next to each other, if I'm subtracting a negative, it's really like saying take the opposite of the negative. The opposite of the negative is a positive, so I'm really adding. And negative 8 plus 8, oh my gosh, right now in your mind, what are you thinking? Are you thinking additive inverse? Yes. Because they're opposites. Negative 8 and 8 are opposites. I will get a big fat 0. Excellent. We're almost done. Hang in there with me. The next one, I see parentheses, but we can't evaluate anything in them. I do see exponent, so let's take care of that first. And this gets a little crazy. Now that means it's negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. Oh gosh. Wow. Okay, so negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, but positive 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Okay, so this whole thing really means negative 8. And I'm going to rewrite the first part because I didn't use that. Negative 3 times 4 in parentheses, and I have over here plus negative 8. Okay, I don't see anything else I can do except multiply. I see multiplication, so I have a negative 3 times 4, and that gives me negative 12. Now I'm adding a negative 8. And do you remember what we set up at the top of these notes? If the signs are the same, we find the sum, or we add them together because they're all alike. You can only put like things together. We know this from years back. So 12 and 8 is negative 20. Oh gosh, I hope this made some sense to you. We're going to do some more practice in class. But if you had trouble with any of these, cover up my work and try it yourself. I have to go because I have to go make hamburgers. Have a great day and learn.